All right, kids, here we are. Here we go. That music sounds very low and my voice sounds very high. Just letting you know, Bell K, from over across the glass, it is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let's get the pleasantries out of the way and we'll get to the content of the day. We've got 3 hours together until 3 o'clock. I hand off to Brian Wilson in the drive at that time, and we've lots to do, as per usual. It is Tuesday, June 27, 2023. You movers and shakers already know what day it is. This is our episode 367 of the Matt Murphy portion of the broadcast day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can find us in a variety of ways, either on the FM dial, 99.7. You can also find us streaming on a variety of different platforms. Pretty much, if there's a streaming platform, we're on it. Just look us up. You can also look us up on Talk TV. Hello. Nice to see you. Been a while. Get on in here. Give us a chat on the F&M Bank chat line while you're over on Super Talk TV. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. It's easy for me to say. 615-737-9986. Those are the telephone numbers, and that is the chat line over on the Super Tech side of things. There's just so many. There's so much stuff going on. I can give you my email address. I can give you my home address. You know, I can tell you where Bell K lives. I mean, there's just a lot happening in terms of being able to communicate with us. And we hope that you utilize at least one of those ways to say hello to us and as we welcome you to our portion of the broadcast day. 615-737-9986. Coming up a little later on, Scott Desjardins will join us at 1:35 this afternoon. You know, he and Congressman John Rose are on somewhat of a farm listening tour, an agricultural listening tour across the state. We mentioned, or John, I should say, mentioned yesterday, they had a listening session between 2 and 5 in Lebanon at the Wilson County Fairgrounds, and we'll find out how that went. And I believe that Desjardins, along with others, they are touring specific farms today, and so we'll see what they're doing and exactly what they're making of this as they prepare another farm bill. There's a Supreme Court ruling that has come down today. This is the time of year where the Supreme Court brings down some of their rulings before they go on summer session break. The Supreme Court today delivered a rejection of a legal theory that threatened to kind of upend, if you will, state election law to give state legislatures somewhat unchecked power over rules involving federal elections. In a 6-3 decision, which was written by Chief Justice John Roberts, the Supreme Court sided with a group of North Carolina voters challenging an attempt by state Republican lawmakers to circumvent a state court decision that struck down a new gerrymandered election map. Does that make sense to everyone? Roberts was joined by Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. At the heart of the case was a legal concept called the independent state legislature theory, which contended that the election clause of the U.S. Constitution provides the state legislature the power to govern federal elections unencumbered by traditional oversight from state constitutions, courts, and governors. Do not mischaracterize what happened today. This is not a federalization of our election processes. They still belong to the state, but as Roberts wrote in the court ruling, but the states have 3 equal and separate branches of government as well. They set up their constitution similar to the United States Constitution in as much as the legislature passes the law, they have a constitution, the executive branch is there to execute, and the judicial branch is there to interpret, and you can't do things that in some way circumvent that process. And that's what they felt happened there. So it is kind of a technical issue to be decided, but it has a lot to do with the results of the 2020 election and the 2022 election. So we wanted to bring that to you. That breaking news coming about a couple of hours ago or so. So we have a few things to deal with closer to home, and we'll get into that as well. There's new information regarding Hunter Biden and his connections with his father and the amount of monies that they have made together as a couple. And then you throw in Jim Biden as well, the brother. And then those three, the trifecta, have made millions and millions and millions of dollars based on their last name, based on Joe Biden's so-called public service to his community as a senator from Delaware. and as a vice president of the United States of America. We'll discuss the latest on that coming up. We will also talk about Donald Trump and the leaked audio. There's two facets to this story that are separate and distinct from one another. One is, how did it leak? Obviously, the Department of Justice is putting their thumb on the scale. At the same time that the judge in the case is telling Donald Trump not to say anything, at the same time that there's considerations of further gag orders and all of these sorts of things, at the same time that everyone's monitoring Donald Trump's social media feeds, his Truth Social, etc., just wondering, holding your breath as to what he will say next about the case. Oh, my goodness, he gave an interview to Brett Baier. Oh, my goodness, what's going on there? At the same time that that's happening, the Department of Justice is leaking like a sieve on purpose in order to screw around with this case. My level of disgust with the deep state bureaucracy, including the FBI, the CIA, and these other NSA and these other alphabet soup intelligence gathering agencies, I'm disgusted beyond measure what goes on inside the Beltway. I understand in bureaus around the country like Memphis, or I guess, what does Knoxville have a field office, I think? I know Memphis does. One way or the other, I understand there are good people in these agencies. We're not talking about you. And I'm tired of having to say that every time I talk about it, too. Invariably, I start pointing fingers at the Washington, D.C. deep state cabal that thinks that they are extra constitutional, that they are above the law. I mean, they're leaking information. Is there any question where this is coming from? Of course there's not. So you're dealing with that. The fact that it was leaked is bothersome because it's difficult for someone to get a fair and impartial trial if individuals are making predetermined decisions about whether they think he's guilty or not. So that's one thing. The other thing is what the leak contains. And I'm getting a little, you know what, just as I'm getting tired of, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, because I'm no different than you. As I talk about this on the radio, the only difference is I've got a 100,000-watt radio station and all of these different platforms. But you're talking about it, or, around a round of beers, or at the dinner table, or wherever you might be in your friend group, on the pickleball court. More on that in a moment. The upshot is, I don't need to give my bona fides about my support of Donald Trump in order to criticize Donald Trump when it merits criticism. There are some of you, and it is a fact, and I know that you don't like to hear it, there are some of you that can't manage to criticize Donald Trump about anything. Now, I don't know if that's out of fear or out of just fierce fealty or some sort of cult of personality worship. I don't get it. I don't get it. But Donald Trump has absolutely shaken the typical government inside the Beltway elitist cycle to its foundation. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. But that does not mean that he is not fallible. And I got a problem with this audio. I got a problem with, I can simultaneously have a problem with the amount of crap that our government is classifying, and also have a problem with the former president waving around classified documents in public to some schmuck reporters. I'm a little mad at Donald Trump right now. I'll be honest. Because you are handing the political left a victory. And you're doing so because of your hubris. Or hubris. I always put an extra syllable in that. Hubris. Am I wrong? Do I have to hand in my Trump support card because I have the audacity to criticize him? Let's make no mistake when I tell you that I believe Donald Trump will be the nominee for president of the United States on the Republican Party ticket in 2024. I believe that. Let's make no mistake that while I have cautioned you, even if you select in your head, don't announce it. You don't need to declare the candidate that you're supporting in the primary session, but I believe that Donald Trump will come out victorious in the state of Tennessee and across the United States of America. And I'm on the record as supporting him when he is the nominee, but I don't know who I'm supporting in the primary right now. And I don't have to know. That's perfectly acceptable. It's a free country. But I do believe that I can fairly and adequately analyze the news as good as anybody on radio, anybody in America. And if you say that this is a big nothing burger for Donald Trump, then you either are whistling past the graveyard or you don't know what you're talking about. It is one thing to have something stored at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, this is another thing. Now, none of that makes what they're trying to do right. What they're trying to do is to bring down the chief political rival of Joe Biden, and they're doing it for that purpose. Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice, they have my focus. But sadly, after trying again and again and again and again and again to accomplish this task, sadly, it seems that our man is handing them ammunition. So, and by the way, 2133, a lot of you are responding on Super Text. I invite you to respond on the telephones as well. I'm not going to argue with anybody. I'm not going to yell at anybody, but I'm interested in getting your thoughts. I am most curious for those of you who do not believe that anything wrong happened here. I'm most curious to talk to you because you have to separate these two things. I believe that we overclassify information in our federal government. We've gone far beyond what the classification system was designed to be about. It was designed to protect the United States of America from foreign entanglements, from foreign governments, from entities that want to do our country harm. And now we just overclassify to the point that it doesn't really mean anything anymore. That's one thing. That's an important thing, but that's one thing. But as much as I would like to change the rules of the game, if you are going to play the game as the rules are laid out, then you have to play the game by those rules. And while I might, or Donald Trump might think it is silly and nonsensical that some of this information is classified, that does not necessarily, and I can play you the 2-minute clip, and at the end of it he asks for Cokes, and they're laughing around, you know, the idea of the Anthony Weiner fella. And I mean, look, I don't know that in the grand scheme, one, it doesn't rise to the level of espionage. That's obvious. But if you have classified documents and you know that you didn't declassify them as stated in the audio, then why are you waving them around? Why are you waving them around to people that you don't necessarily trust? Are you showing off? The case is chock full of By the way, my commentary about this in no way reflects how I think this case is going to turn out. One, I understand that most believe it a fait accompli that the judge is going to accept all of this information into the courtroom in front of a jury of Donald Trump's peers. I don't know that that's the case at all. I think the judge likely could throw a lot of this stuff out. Secondarily, there is extreme prosecutorial misconduct that has gone on in this case. All of that is on one side. The leak is a part of that prosecutorial misconduct. Don't misrepresent what I'm telling you. But one does not negate the other. And while this might not hurt him long term in a court of law, it just hurts my heart that he would allow his ego to put him in a position where he gives the political left another victory. That's what's making me mad. These people are doing everything in their power to destroy our democracy, representative republic, as we know it. And we have to remain vigilant and keep our eyes on the prize. And if you believe that too, if you believe that they are endeavoring in a way to harm our election processes, to tilt the scale in their favor, to harm the chief political rival of the executive branch of government, if you believe all of these things, if you believe in how much Donald Trump has exposed them, then you should share my anger that the man let something slip. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Nothing wrong with saying that. 615-737-9986. Open phone lines on that subject, of course. We have a few other things to discuss as well, not the least of which is pickleball. And the fact that I've been challenged by Dan Mandis of Nashville's Morning News to a pickleball contest. I've never played pickleball. I've never picked up a pickleball racket. I have a vague familiarity with the game. But I'm going to comment on that at some point. If you're watching the whiteboard, if you're watching on television, you see on the whiteboard my comment. Too soon? Just look, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You can find us there. You can find us online. You can chat with us on the F&M Bank chat line, or you can call us up, 615-737-9986. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Tennessee Men's Clinic. Tennessee Men's Clinic opened a new location to serve you just recently, a few months ago, out in Franklin, Cool Springs area. You can find out more about that location at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Here's the deal, men. If you are feeling sluggish, run down, if you feel like you don't have the energy that you used to have, if you've noticed some lack of enthusiasm in the bedroom, for example, then all of that could be pointed to one or two or three things. You know, T levels are what they are. There's some other factors that could be causing energy loss. Why not allow one of the folks at Tennessee Men's Clinic to sit down with you, go over your individual circumstances, get a little blood, get some information, get those numbers checked, and then prescribe something that's going to be successful down the road and in the long term. You don't have to accept that you don't have the energy you used to have. You can get it back thanks to Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or give them a call and schedule your appointment today. I encourage you to do so. 615-208-9090, 208-9090 for Tennessee Men's Clinic. All right, let's talk about your home. It's the largest investment that most of us will make in our lives, at least one-time investment. I guess if you count up the amount of food that you eat, it might add up to more than that. But it's a very expensive proposition nonetheless. And when it comes to large home repairs, you need to keep that home up to make sure that you are protecting your investment. A lot of times we try to pretend that we don't see the warning signs. We're afraid of what we're going to hear when we have someone out. You need this information from the best. You need USS, United Structural Systems. They have it down when it comes to foundation repair, waterproofing, concrete leveling. Let me talk about the concrete leveling for a moment, because I had this happen at my house back in Birmingham. I wish I'd known about USS at that time, because they would have given me such peace of mind, because I know how good they are at doing what they do. But these concrete leveling systems, it's called the Polylift system, where they put dime-sized holes in your pavement, in your concrete, and they pump it full of lifting agent that this polyurethane will never wash out over time. There's no unsightly patches or blemishes. You can walk on it immediately. The foam is environmentally friendly. It doesn't degrade, and it works, and it can save you not thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. So don't let the water get the best of you. Don't let your foundation problems get the best of you. Call the best. Call USS, 615-488-7855, 488-7855, USSTN.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show in progress. Lunchtime hour ongoing. Hope you're doing well. Your lunch bunch is here until 3 o'clock this afternoon. We'll give it to the drive and Brian Wilson at that time. Glad you've decided to join us. If you are, if you're interested, I'd like to hear your thought. And I know it can be difficult, and I know that for a portion of Donald Trump supporters, any mild criticism of Donald Trump is looked at as an attack. And it's a very interesting way of looking at things. To say the least, it's frustrating. Because it's difficult to have an honest dialogue when you see some of these things happen and you recognize the nature of what's going on, and you try to figure out a way to explain it to Trump supporters in a way that they don't get completely defensive. Because I am a Trump supporter, don't get me wrong, but some in our number, they get so defensive they shut you down. So we can't have constructive dialogue regarding what is actually going on. And I have to be honest and truthful with you when I say that you're handing the political left, you're handing the entities that would like to destroy the basic building blocks of our constitutional republic, you're handing them ammunition. When you're standing around with an audio tape rolling, blabbing about, well, I didn't declassify this, I could have declassified it, I didn't declassify it. Chris writes in, Chris writes, too many of you signing in, so I can't get to you. Chris writes in and says, maybe the reason for the defensiveness is because he gets so many torpedoes from the left. Well, maybe so. You don't get torpedoes from me about this type of thing. Here's the deal. You put your hand on a Bible and you swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. Every president has done that. I don't know of a modern president that has not walked away from the White House with some classified material in their possession. We know that Trump did it. We know that Obama did it. We know that non-presidents have done it, like a Joe Biden, for example, or a Mike Pence. I'd be willing to guarantee you that Bill Clinton did it and George Bush did it and George Bush Sr. did it before. I mean, these things happen for no reason other than these papers get mixed in with other paperwork that would go into the presidential file that eventually makes its way into the presidential records or their library, that maybe go back with them for the purpose of writing memoirs or writing about their time as president of the United States. These are not automatically quote unquote illegal acts in terms of the taking of this property. The fact that they had them is one aspect of this. And to answer John's question, he said, okay, but they had them. Isn't that the important aspect of all of this? I just don't understand the inconsistency of one doing it, and it's okay, and one does it, and the country will implode. I don't think the country's going to implode one bit. I'm telling you that if you have evidence that Donald Trump had specific knowledge of specific paperwork that was classified. Let me say this calmly. I'm going to start over. John, I want to answer your question. Joe Biden, although you and I both know it's not true, can currently claim that he didn't know that there was classified stuff in those boxes. He can say that. Barack Obama could say, yes, we had to turn back over some classified material after reviewing it, but I didn't know it. And Donald Trump has stated on record that he didn't know. But now we have an audio recording with the former president of the United States of America defending himself on a policy position, and in doing so, using a classified document as evidence of his defense and showing it to people who do not have authorization to view a classified document. Is that not a problem for you guys? Now, it's not the end-all, be-all for me. The reason that I am passionate about it is not because I am anti-Trump, because I'm trying to help you guys see that this is not just a nothing burger. This is the way that people get convicted of crimes. And you gave that to the people that are out to get you. That's what's frustrating me. Does this mean the case shouldn't be of course the case should be thrown out. Of course the prosecution mishandled all of this. Of course the prosecution is guilty of malfeasance and wrongdoing. But that doesn't make this disappear. It's 12:32, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Patriot Mobile. I encourage you to make the switch that so many others have been making to Patriot Mobile. There's good reason why, too, because Patriot Mobile believes in the types of things that you and I, good Americans, believe in. I'm talking about the ideals that made this country strong, belief in our rights, our First Amendment rights first and foremost, our Second Amendment rights. They offer dependable. You know what? With all of these good things, that would be all well and good, but if they did not offer the dependable nationwide coverage that you've become accustomed to, if they did not offer nationwide coverage on all three major networks, it would just probably go for naught. But because they're a good Christian conservative wireless provider and they offer the same level of coverage that you've become accustomed to, well, that's the reason to switch right there. Go ahead and go to their U.S.-based customer service team. Make switching so easy. Keep your phone and keep your phone number. Go to patriotmobile.com/Murphy. patriotmobile.com/Murphy or 878-PATRIOT. That's 878-PATRIOT. Free activation with the offer code Murphy. That's MURPHY. PatriotMobile.com. Just say the word Murphy. All right, it's 1237, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. No takers on the phone lines. You're welcome if you choose to. Always open during the Murphy Show, 615-737-9986. I know why no one's calling, because everybody's mad at me because I'm sharing a dose of reality with you, and that's fine. I'll tell you what, I'll calm down. Everything's fine. Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong. Everything's fine. Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong. And once all the votes are counted, we'll win 2020. Is that too smart ass for anybody? Guys, I lived through 2020. Here, hold on. And before y'all start coming at me, I predicted what would happen in Georgia in 2021. I predicted what would happen in 2020 to a certain degree, although I thought Donald Trump might get out of it. So me predicting how they're going to use certain aspects of all of this against our man is not coming out anti-Trump. It's trying to help. I think there's a lot of, it'll be fine. Oh, Donald Trump knows what he's doing. Oh, he can just, and look, if his defense is he was lying and these weren't really top secret documents and he was just waving them around and they weren't really classified, that's all well and good too. I mean, frankly, I think that's kind of a good defense. Hey, I was just talking out of my behind. You know, I was just bragging a little bit. I was just saying, hey, look at these classified documents. They're right here. You can read it. And it wasn't really classified documents. I think that's a pretty good defense. I don't think they can even find it, the document itself. If you want to kill the messenger, kill the messenger. I'm that guy. But I'm the one, and I know I was not around for you to hear it, and I'm very passionate about this because you have to understand how sneaky and conniving these people are, how they're going to use every little thing to their own advantage. They will do anything. They will say anything. They will use anything to destroy all of us and our country as we know it. For two things, power and control. And if you don't think they're going to use this to try to make their case and send our man to the pokey, you're mistaken. This is not me dumping him. It's me rallying around him and rallying the troops to the point that this is a problem. And recognizing a mistake was made is not turning him over to the feds. It's recognizing that a mistake was made and how they're going to use it against him. For example, after 2020, I said, and a lot of us were licking our wounds and wondering what the heck happened and how exactly all of this went down. And was it vote harvesting in Georgia, or was it a change in practice in Pennsylvania? And what the heck happened in Detroit, Michigan? And what's going on out in Arizona? And I remember all of that. And I said at the time, and I'm not trying to play, 2020 games with you, but I'm elephantine. I remember this. I said, y'all, we're going to lose the Senate too. They're going to do exactly the same thing in Georgia that they did during the regular election, and we're going to lose both of those seats too. And looky. Looky. You got to recognize the playing field in order to understand how to win at it. Andrew is next in Franklin. Andrew, thank you for your call. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
Yeah, so I was in the military. I held the top secret clearance, and I dealt with a lot of cryptography and top secret messages. And so, first of all, I'm a huge Trump supporter, but there is no two-tier system. And there's no mistaking when you mishandle classified documents it doesn't matter if you've handed them to anybody. If you have mishandled them, there has been a lot of training, and you already know that there is a punishment for that. And I was involved in I would say a cover-up. We pulled some cryptography early, and we disseminated that to other ships in our battle group. Then we found out it was early, and we didn't mention it. And for that fact, 3 different people lost their rank. One person was kicked out of the military. I was faced with 3 different polygraph tests. So if you mishandle classified, there's not a second chance for you.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously the president of the United States, who has unilateral ability to classify or declassify upon his decision making, is a little bit different than someone like you. But the rules don't change in term, especially when you're dealing with a president that's already left office. So, I mean, sadly, what a lot of folks are frustrated about, Andrew, is they're not going after Joe Biden. They're slow walking that case. They never went after Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton had thousands of documents and at least hundreds of classified documents on her homebrewed server, which was illegal in and of itself. So already it's kind of baked into the cake that there is a 2-tiered system. I know there's not supposed to be, but when we look at the evidence before us with Hillary Clinton, it's hard to argue that there's not. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And you know, all I'm dealing with is this particular case. And if, you know, we can't have a 2-tiered system. And so that means that we do what's right, and we can't change to other people what they do wrong. But if he intentionally mishandled and spoke about classified documents, there will be punishment for that. And I do support President Trump, so don't get me twisted. I'm just saying I faced it, and many of my colleagues faced it, and just because I like somebody doesn't excuse them from criminal action.
Well, I mean, it's well spoken, and who knows what's going to come out about it. I want to reserve full judgment until I hear the full scope of the audio. Donald Trump has responded to this on Truth Social, saying that this actually exonerates him. Paul wants me to, in all capital letters, I guess I've been talking in all capital letters all day, Paul, so you deserve to as well, to stop talking to people like they're stupid. Well, I don't know what that means, Paul. Paul, do me a favor. Retext me and talk to me like I'm stupid and tell me what you mean. I don't know what I've been talking for the last 45 minutes. I don't know exactly what you're referring to. I do sometimes try to over-explain to catch people up. I do try to over-explain to help people understand the narrative and the where I'm coming from. So if I'm doing that for you, I'm sorry. I don't want to talk past anybody. So there's a delicate balance, Paul. Just to answer your comment, there's a delicate balance between making sure that everyone's up to speed on a subject, not talking past them, but not talking down to them. And I'm trying to do that carefully. I hope that I'm accomplishing said task. Debbie is next in Nashville. Hey, Debbie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Well,
I'm sorry.
Oh, well, pardon me.
I really enjoy your show.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have to agree with you. Nobody is a bigger Trump fan than me. And as far as the right person for the job, he's proven himself, let's face it. But there is a double standard. And if you think there's not, you're I don't know what's wrong. But I'll say this. I think if they're going to let Biden go and their Pence did it, then I don't think Trump should even be put on the stand or punished. But I will say this. I see Trump's faults, and he's an egomaniac, and he's arrogant, and he says things that I want to kick him for. But that doesn't mean that he's not the man for the job. He does things, and I wonder who is advising you, because if they're advising you in any of the right direction, you're not listening. You are giving these idiots that go after you over and over and over again more and more stuff to do it with. And why? Why would you do that? Just because you think maybe you're going to overcome whatever they do? No. Because these people have proven over and over again that they are wicked, they are evil, and they will do whatever they can to hurt this country.
Well, that's right. And that is what it's not. It's a little bit. I'm frustrated a little bit by Trump's actions because it was an impulsive. It appears, at least listening in the audio, and for those, I realize that some have not heard the audio specifically, so I'll play that for you for those who haven't. But it does frustrate me a little bit. But Donald Trump seemed to, through the course of his presidency and even post-presidency, as many slings and arrows as was coming at him, he seemed to understand the enemy as well as anyone. And I guess what's surprising is that he did not see this coming, or he did not anticipate the possibility of something like this snapping back on him to give them the ammunition that they're going to use to try to destroy him.
Well, I agree with that. I do think that we have a lot of good people running in the primary. I will say this. I hope that Trump wins, but if he does not, I'm a Republican all the way, and whoever gets it has my backing. Because we have to get rid of Biden.
Well, that's the dadgum truth. Before I let you go, Debbie, and I'm only compelled to do this based on the number of super texters that are asking me to do it.
Yeah.
What was that noise? What was that?
I'm sorry, I'm driving.
Was it a horn, or I'm just curious? I don't,
I'm not really sure what that was.
Okay, it sounded like a tugboat, like a
air horn from the Titanic.
Yeah, it sounded like the air horn that went off before the Titanic went down.
Well, I have my phone in a holder, and because I don't hold my phone and drive, but no.
Well,
but I
that's all
appreciate.
good. It's all good.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And Trump, I think he's a wonderful guy, but he does have his issues, and I think sometimes you have to overlook that to get the job done, and have the right person to do it.
Well, Debbie, I appreciate that, and you know what? I think the American people that believe in our way of life will. Sadly, there are so many that don't, or so many that are not paying attention. We have to overcome those individuals, their ignorance or their willful desire to turn this country into a socialist nation. And we sadly see them with ammunition that look, it does me no joy to talk about this subject at all, but talk about it we must. None of this changes the nature of this prosecution. None of this changes the nature of the mishandling of this prosecution. None of this changes the prosecutorial misconduct. But I warn you, pretending like this doesn't matter, it's going to lead to bad things, I think, unless there's a robust defense on this. And yes, 0930, I suggest that it was probably like a Jake break or something along those lines in traffic that we heard as we were picking up. That it does kind of, that kind of thing. I got a lot of people answering the question as to what the heck that was. First it kind of sounded like a toot. I mean, I'll be honest. But it wasn't me, and it wasn't Debbie. It must have been Belle.
I'm a little gassy today.
Have your mic on there, buddy? Have some sloppy Joe for lunch?
Not yet, but I'm going to.
Are you? With broccoli?
Yep.
Oh, it sounds good. 1251 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. More calls on the way on this fabulous edition of the Matt Murphy Show. Stand by. The Glock store, when I say it's world famous, I mean it's world famous. Did you know they ship all over the country? I would dare say they ship all over the world, but I don't know if that's the case or not. But I know they go all over the country at the world famous Glock store. Lenny McGill and his team, they make so many different performance parts for Glocks and others, handguns and the like. Back in their equipment manufacturing rooms. This is an incredible complex they have just off of Elm Hill Pike. It's big, it's bright, it's 35,000 square feet. They have specialized tactical shooting rooms. Of course, the showroom area includes all manner of accessories. I've mentioned my desire to get some concealed carry underwear, and they have concealed carry underwear right there in the showroom. I keep asking them to allow me to try them on. They will not allow me to try them on in the showroom. I can kind of understand that. Performance parts like pyramid triggers or tungsten guide rods, extended controls. And no matter your level of experience, here's the wonderful thing. They're good people. And so they're going to treat you with respect. They're not going to talk down to you. Like some do in their industry. So I encourage you, whatever your level of expertise, wherever you are regarding gun ownership, give them a call, or better yet, stop by just off Elm Hill Pike, minutes away from the sound of my voice, the world-famous Glock Store, online at glockstore.com. That's glockstore.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And then there's the other saga of the day, and that is the proposed pickleball challenge by Dan Mandis. You know, here's the thing. We've been talking about these audio recordings in which you hear Donald Trump referring to classified or supposedly classified documentation. Bell, there's another controversy going on, too, because many of you, and I'm kind of coming around to where you're at on this, many of you are saying, Murphy, you don't know the full context. They just released a portion of this. Maybe there's more to be said on it. You need to wait until you get the full picture, and I would agree with you on that. Well, here's the deal. Dan Mandis, this morning on Nashville's Morning News, was talking about yours truly. And he used as evidence of how he felt like he could beat me in pickleball the fact that my pitch at the Nashville Sounds game was not as good as his pitch. And there's a recording.
I thought that was the other way around.
No, mine was low and left.
Oh.
I admit mine was low and left. Lower and lefter than his. His wasn't very good, but mine was worse. You know what? Yeah, you know what he admit? You know what he doesn't admit? We went to the fast pitch thing at the Nashville Sounds game, and I smoked it. He doesn't mention that, does he? I'll see your pickleball challenge, Mandis. Let's go. Things getting testy at the White House in the press briefing room. We'll carry some of that audio for you coming up in just a little bit on the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome in. Hope you're well. I'm having a great time. Don't worry, my blood pressure goes up from time to time, but I can handle it. 1:05 this afternoon. We're here till 3. The Drive with Brian Wilson at that time. By the way, speaking of Brian Wilson and The Drive, I'll be in for Brian on Friday, and we will be broadcasting from Bold Patriot Brewing. So if you want to kick off the 4th of July week off properly, come to see us Friday, this Friday the 30th, from 3 until 7 o'clock at Bold Patriot Brewing Company. That is located on Charlotte Pike in L&L Market. Just go around the back, park, come in, say hello, give us a wave. Heck, I might even buy you a brew. You never know. Yeah, I mean, it's still, I can't have any. I will not be partaking myself, but I'll be watching all of you as I am knocking back a couple of LBs as opposed to a couple of pints. I'm trying to take off some ounces and some pounds, and you can't do that while you're pounding down pints. At least I can't. Maybe some of you can. One way or the other, come see us, Bold Patriot Brewing Company from 3 until 7 this Friday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I currently hope that you're enjoying us on Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch. Join us there, chat. There's a big old chat going on right now, and I have no idea what's happening because I can't see it. But you can also text us, super text line up and running, 615-737-9986, or give us a call. A lot of conversation is surrounding this. And I guess we've talked about it enough. You should hear it at this stage. This is the 2-minute piece of audio which was obtained by CNN, clearly leaked by the Department of Justice. One would presume that was the case. Of course, CNN, acting on condition of anonymity, suggesting that they could not possibly tell you or me where they got the audio because that would be violating their very trusted sources. I believe their trusted sources would be the Department of Justice, the feds, who, of course, shouldn't leak any of this, but they do. I mean, does it not remind all of us of the Trump administration? The 4 years of the Trump administration where, I mean, there were leaks galore coming out of the White House or coming out of this agency or that agency. It was all coming from the FBI and the Department of Justice, sadly. Here's the tape. Listen closely. A little difficult to understand, but I think you get the gist of it.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like
beginning.
when Millie's talking about, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in.
That's right.
Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Millie, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off.
Okay, so I'm not judging it one way or the other, but I wanted to play you that, where he says, look at it, this first came up, this just came up, yada, yada, yada. The general consensus amongst Trump supporters, and I include myself in that number, although I analyze these things a little differently than I understand you do, is that necessarily did not have to be classified material. And that's true. But the suggestion by some of you, and I'm very respectful of your thoughts on this, but the suggestion that he was not holding anything at the time that this was recorded, that he was just saying that he was, and I've had people say that, is, come on. I mean, come on, man. You can hear the papers. You can see him, or you can, in your mind's eye, see him referring to, he says, give me that. And I just, it might not have been a classified document. Donald Trump could have been filibustering to the point where, he's just holding something up that he says is classified and it's not really classified. And maybe that's true. But he held something up. I can hear the papers rattling.
Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of.
So he says this was him, this was him, this was him, and one supposes that he's indicating the piece of paper that he's showing this individual. In the 50,000 feet view of all of this, Mark Milley, the Army General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was supposedly worried that Donald Trump at the time would order a military operation in the waning days of his presidency against Iran. And the president was showing that it was the military man himself who had drafted these types of plans, not the president of the United States. He was defending himself. But in doing so, he was showing individuals who do not have authorization to see classified material. That is the accusation against the president of the United States. Now, for his part, let me play the rest of this, and I'll tell you how Donald Trump has responded to all of this in the aftermath of this recording being leaked, probably by the DOJ, to CNN.
This stuff. Pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found. Isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time, you know.
she'd send it. No, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
the pervert.
Please print.
Okay, Donald, just a fact check. Hey, Belle, can we fact check this really quickly? I'm going to play it again, and I want you to help me fact check this, okay? Let's just play this one more time.
That out all the time, you know.
She'd send it. No, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
the pervert.
Okay, Donald Trump referred to Anthony Weiner as a pervert. Can I fact check that, please?
False. I am one. He's never at the meetings.
I'm gonna go true. Anthony Weiner is most certainly a pervert. So it's 1-1. All of you out in the listening audience can break the tie. Bell says Anthony Weiner is not a pervert. Matt Murphy says he is a pervert. I think I'm going to win this argument. I think I'm going to win. This is my one.
Just because they're biased.
This is my shot. Oh, yeah, sure. They're anti-pervertists. Yes.
I'm feeling a little attacked here.
You should, because you're taking a pro-perv position. A triple P, which is never a good idea. Unless you really got to get.
By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And, you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me.
All right, wait, stop the tape before we finish up. Ann says, I'm sorry, 6292 says, I thought he said predator. No, I think he's
print that out all the time.
I think he said pervert. Here goes.
She'd send it, no, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
the pervert.
I think he said
By the way,
pervert.
isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And, you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify
figure out
it. See, as president,
Okay, at that stage, and look, I'm just analyzing what I'm hearing. I'm not taking a position on it. And I think, obviously, the long knives are out. He says, well, we could probably, and they're going to say, I don't know. And he goes, no, we'd have to declassify. And I think he's trying to, play nice. And, maybe we could give this to you. Who knows? But he did not. And no one can find this document anymore, by the way. The federal government apparently doesn't have it in their possession.
probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify
figure out
it. See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is classified.
now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so. Here and I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
Bring some Cokes in, please. Let's have a Coke. Orange whip, orange whip, orange whip. 3 orange whips. There is the President of the United States. Your thoughts, your reaction. Janet is in Mount Juliet. Hey, Janet, thank you for calling.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. First of all, I just want to say I'm going to support Trump regardless, no matter what. I've been behind him from day one. I appreciate that he's a businessman and that he knew how to run things in a way that made this country stronger for the first time in a long time, following several dopes in the White House. So I'm going to have his back regardless. But I fully agree with you when you're trying to tell people, they need to pull up their big boy pants, because this is a serious situation and we need him to stop screwing around. We need him to play the ball better, because we need him in the White House. So if he keeps jerking off in these stupid situations, it's just messing things up completely. And if that's what ticks me off, and that's what I heard you say, was why is he doing these stupid things? He really should know better, because we need him to be smarter than this.
Yeah, I mean, well, not to interrupt you there, Janet, but I'm so glad you called, because you are better saying what I'm feeling. And I don't want anyone to mischaracterize my frustration with the former president and a man that I voted for 4 times with my frustration is with the situation. My frustration is that we just gave them bullets to fire at Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's the one that gave them to them. And,
Exactly.
And I at the time, I'm sure that he thought nothing of it. He thought nothing would come of it. These were individual. How many times does he have to get burned by these reporters before he stops talking to these reporters like this?
Well, you have to remember, the gentleman was not born a politician. He's a businessman who's had a lot of money and had a lot of successes his whole life. So he still trips on himself, we'll just put it that way, because he just doesn't quite know how to play the game. Everybody wants to get mad about his ego. Give me a break. They don't think JFK had an ego? They don't think, let's just list them all. They all have egos. It's just some of them are, better politicians, better politic at everything. So they know how to play the game. They know when to shut their mouths. They know when to be really careful. And Donald just doesn't have that as much as the rest of them have in the past. But, I fully get where you're coming from, and I stand behind you 100%, and people need to stop being wimpy about this. This is a serious situation, and we need to, get him to figure it out, or we need to find somebody that's as good or better than him and move forward. And lastly, I got your back with the pickleball thing.
Oh, come on, Janet. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I got your back, though. I don't know what the game is, and I personally don't really want anybody messing with your pickles, but I got your back, because Daniel needs to be taken down a notch. There's no question. I mean, Janet, this is a sage on the radio right now. I mean, Janet is bringing the heat. Not only is Janet dead on with regard to missteps, and we have to be right 100% of the time. They only have to be right once. The radical liberal socialist left in the United States of America operates in the same fashion as radical Islam. They will subjugate you, convert you, or destroy you. That is what they're attempting to do with Donald Trump. That is incredible insight and wisdom by you, Janet. And then to finish it up with an attack on Dan Mandis and his pickleball skills, it might be the best caller we've ever had. It might be. If you'd thrown in, Janet, I'll tell you, if you had thrown in one Barb at Bell, it would have been complete. But c'est la vie. Maybe next time.
And she wouldn't have got the claps.
True that. So pickleball, to explain, not that you asked, Janet, but pickleball, I've never played it myself, but I've seen it, and it looks like it's something between tennis and ping pong. It's like it's bigger than ping pong and it's smaller than tennis. And you hit a ball over the net. And then when it's hit back to you, you hit it again. And I guess the ball is more along the lines of a wiffle ball. And I will destroy Dan Mandis in singles. But more importantly, what I want to encourage Dan to do, I have a doubles partner. All Dan has to do is make a friend and get him out on the pickleball court.
Oh, he's already lost then.
Let's play a little doubles. I mean, he couldn't get Johnny B or Ken Weaver to join him. I offered to do show pickleball. I said Murphy show against Nashville's Morning News. And this morning, Mandis was like, Well, he's never going to get Bell to play. Bell's not going to play. I know that. Bell will come out. Bell will support me. I don't need Bell to play because I got Mac Morey doing news from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, so he's officially a part of this show. We'll get old Morey in here, and he'll help me out. Oh, no. He couldn't get Ken Weaver to back him up. He couldn't get Johnny B to back him up. And no doubt I don't blame them because in their hearts of hearts, they know who the winning team is.
Well, and Mac can run circles around all four of you.
I don't even need Mac Morey. I'll put Mac Morey on the sidelines, too. I've got a pickleball partner. Dan, find yourself a pickleball partner. We'll get some foursomes going on. Maybe race. Let's raise, in all seriousness, let's raise some money for charity. Wouldn't that be fun? You know, pick a charitable foundation of his choice, a charitable foundation of my choice. Everybody puts some money into the pot when they get there. I mean, we don't have to put a denomination on it. You just give what you feel you can give. And then we go from there. 120 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The White House is, speaking of pickles, they're having to answer some questions about inconsistencies in the testimony between Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss. Because Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss has said, I wasn't really in charge of any of this thing. Merrick Garland was in charge of any of this thing. What does the White House have to say about it? Well, it's not Karine Jean-Pierre saying the lies and half-truths this time around. It's another spokesperson by the name of Olivia Dalton, a woman who I've never seen before. She's wearing it looks like she's wearing a black dress that got splattered in pig's blood. Oh, just go look. I'll play you the audio coming up in just a moment on Super Talk. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and you know what? I get to meet such wonderful and interesting people doing my job, and I met one of these wonderful and interesting people just a few weeks ago, and I want to introduce you to Stokes Nielsen. Stokes Nielsen is a longtime songwriter in the city of Nashville and Music City, and in and around Tennessee. He's met so many wonderful singers and songwriters himself, and he wrote a song recently with the Strength of America Song Project. It was a part of a project that would focus on a monument to women's service in the military. And he performed the song at Arlington Cemetery at the Military Women's Memorial as a part of Women Veterans Recognition Day and the 75th anniversary of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act. That's all to say that Stokes sang it there, but he wants you to sing it in studio. He wants you to record this song, and he is looking for singers. I know that there are thousands of you in the listening audience right now. If you believe that you have the right voice to sing this song, why not reach out to Stokes? This could be the break that you've been waiting for. Go to strengthofamericasong@gmail.com. That's the email address. We're getting you directly to Stokes. That's strengthofamericasong@gmail.com. This is the real deal. And I think it is cool that Stokes is giving you an opportunity to participate. He wants a contest to see who is the next great singer of the next great American song. Strength of America Song@gmail.com, and tell Stokes I sent you. we're the most interactive radio show that you can find on your dial. We're proud of that, whether it be via the phone lines at 615-737-9986. Email, you can always reach out to us and I'll get back to you, or on the super text line. I try to respond to every super texter that comes in. Now, it's impossible because so many of them come in. Or
they can just show up to Bold Patriot on Friday and talk to you person to person.
And I'm happy to do that as well. Just don't...
3 to 7 this week, though.
That's right. 3 to 7 this week. Just don't... here's pro move from me to you. Don't try to talk to me while I'm actually talking on the radio, which happens.
Don't put limitations on them. That's just rude.
It is. I don't know what it is. We need some sort of on-air light or something, I guess, because I guess people don't realize that I'm actively on the radio, and they walk up to the and I love you. God love every single one of you. I'll hug your necks if you're there, but it is with regularity that you're out and about, and you're on the radio, and here comes somebody. Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing? I'm busy.
He can only concentrate on 3 things at once. You give him a 4th, and it's like throwing a juggler a chainsaw.
That can get bloody. But I was responding to someone as we were coming back from break, and I want to finish that response. But I'm going to do so on air. So I hope that 6766, as we'll call you, I hope that you are still listening, because you wrote me about, 10 minutes ago. And you said, they originally said the recording was illegally leaked. That's the problem. You don't know the context. And I said, I agree, which is the first thing that I said, that there are 2 things going on here. The first thing I said about the Trump audio, number 1 is the fact that it was leaked. How and who leaked? And this is a part of a broader problem of prosecutorial misconduct against Donald Trump. We've seen it time and time again. That must be dealt with. And the nature of the leak, the nature of what was said in the leaked audio is different from the nature of the leak itself. I believe that this entire case, should be thrown out of court based on what I have seen, what is readily available to the public regarding how they got some of this information, particularly information from Donald Trump's lawyers, particularly information from Walt Nauda's lawyers. They leaned on these people. They threatened them to the point of almost extorting this information from them. And they also misled the grand jury in a number of different ways. But all of that will be decided by the judge. And yes, the leak matters. It matters if the Department of Justice is intentionally and willfully leaking material to the press. An obviously anti-Trump press. So, yes, we mentioned that to begin with. And then Super Texter goes on. So you think it's smart to carry on and on against our front leader. Trump was not giving out secrets to the enemy. I agree with you. He was not. But, well, I don't know. Do you consider the press to be the enemy? Anyway, Trump was not giving out secrets to the enemy. I agree. But you are discouraging the weak-minded from voting for him. I am not discouraging anyone from voting for anyone. I don't do that. I don't make endorsements. I don't tell you who to vote for. I'll tell you who I'm voting for, and I've not made any decisions. But you think I have when you say, which most of you have made it clear that you prefer DeSantis. I have not. Trump is the best man for the job. I voted for Donald Trump 4 times. I've never voted for Ron DeSantis in my life. I'll say it again. I voted for Donald Trump 4 times. Never voted for Ron DeSantis in my life. And I'm not telling anyone how to vote in the primary. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. I'm encouraging you not to make a selection until 2024. Just watch all of this play out. Now, if you want to go all in on Trump, that's your business. You want to go all in on Ron, that's your business. I'm not making a decision. I'm watching it all play out, and I'm analyzing it as best I possibly can for all of you. And sometimes I see things that perhaps are perceived negatively, especially amongst the Trump base of support. I get that. So if everyone would get that kind of passion against what the Bidens are doing, it'd be great. He's selling us out. Trump is fighting for us, but he's an easy target. Just to be clear, I love y'all most of the time. Well, I love you too, and I hope that I have been clear that you can criticize me for maybe the lack of or the focus that I have on this subject matter. But I'm warning you, I saw it when we saw the build up to the 2020 election cycle, and I'm not pretending I predicted all of it, but I warned everyone that Donald Trump won the 2016 election on the internet because he cut through the media bias and got to the people that mattered through the internet, and he won it that way. And in 2020, the Democrats won 2020 due to COVID and due to changing the rules of the game in the middle of the game and blaming COVID for doing so. And as it was happening, here I am raising my hand going, hey, this is bad. When they're vote harvesting along the lines that they're vote harvesting and early voting along the lines that they're early voting. And anyway, I mean, so when you see something happening before your eyes, you want to raise your hand and say, hey, this might cause us a problem. That is not to say that it's the end. I'm telling you what's on that audio tape might cause Donald Trump a problem. That is not to suggest that he would not be a sight better than anyone else in the race, and obviously far better than Joe Biden. In the meantime, a second Hunter Biden whistleblower has come forward. According to U.S. Attorney David Weiss in the Hunter Biden probe, he does not have responsibility for deciding where, when, or whether to file charges. That was left to Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland lied when he said that it wasn't, unless you believe Merrick Garland. And
who honestly believes that a decision that large, that impactful, is not going to cross his desk?
If he was an actual, now A.G. Garland obviously disputes this, but if Weiss was an actual special prosecutor, sure, but he wasn't. He never was. He just said, well, we'll let him continue working this, and they'll figure this out in Delaware. But they always answered to the U.S. Attorney General. In the case of, for example, Robert Mueller, when Jeff Sessions was forced to recuse himself, and I think Jeff Sessions was between a rock and a hard place. I don't think that it was any good.
Yeah, he wasn't going to win either way.
He wasn't going to win either way, but when he was forced to recuse himself and eventually they appointed a special prosecutor in Robert Mueller was answerable to nobody, not even the Attorney General of the United States. So that's the difference. This guy was always answerable to Garland, and Garland wants to pretend like he wasn't. Well, that's not true. Well, the White House was asked about that today. Olivia Dalton, who is, I guess, subbing in for the pathetic Karine Jean-Pierre, was asked and answered this way.
Does the White House believe Attorney General Garland committed perjury when he testified under oath that Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss could bring charges outside his district?
I don't have any comment on this. Anita? Go ahead.
In 10 days...
Stephen, I'm moving on. Anita?
Stephen, I'm moving on. Stephen, I'm moving on. Don't you like that? I love that toward the end. Let's just do it again.
I don't have any comment on this. Anita? Go ahead.
In 10 days...
Stephen, I'm moving on. Anita?
Stephen, I'm moving on. Anita?
Can we circle back? No.
Anita? Go ahead.
In 10 days...
Stephen, I'm moving on. Anita?
Stephen, I'm moving on. Does the White House believe Attorney General, your Attorney General, Merrick Garland, lied before Congress, an equal branch of government, when he testified that the U.S. Attorney David Weiss could bring any charges he wanted to outside of his district? And the Attorney General, David Weiss, says that's not true. Who believes that's true? In the meantime, there's this question, and a good one. You see, we've cracked the veneer here despite all of these distractions, and you can call the Trump audio a distraction if you want, and that's all good. We've got plenty of time. We can juggle and chew bubblegum at the same time. In the midst of all of these so-called distractions, the Hunter Biden story is cutting through the clatter because there is meat on this bone. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has forced into the public the existence of a Federal Bureau of Investigation FD 1023 form detailing an informant's claim that a Burisma executive paid $5 million in bribe money to then Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter. After the Bureau begrudgingly let a few members of Congress look after the document, Chuck Grassley revealed that the FBI had redacted the part about the executive saying he had audio recordings of conversations with Joe and Hunter Biden. Now we have this development. Have you seen the latest where Hunter Biden is He's texting a guy. This is a Chinese executive.
You know what he said?
What did he say? He did. And the Chinese executive said,
does it get me out of paying you the money?
You know what? I'm glad you said that because it saved me probably a suspension. I was going to do
You got to at least drop a hint. Man.
I was going to do a radically bad like Chinese
Oh, yeah, don't do that.
impersonation, which would get you into a bit of trouble. Golly, it reminds me of a rhyme we used to do as a kid. I'm not doing it. Me Chinese, me play joke.
Stop it! Stop it!
You know what it was.
Yes,
But you know the one. But you know the one I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
It's
Stop.
Just tell me you know the one I'm talking about. I'll shut up.
I know the one.
You know what? Even when I was a kid, can I say? Even when I was a kid, do we have a break to take? Have I taken my break? Holy shnikes!
No,
I haven't.
We're having too much fun. Neither of us are paying
taken
attention.
my break.
Oh my gosh!
Oh no! Me Chinese, me play joke, me take no break. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 141. Matt Murphy and you, Super Text line up and running. Our telephone lines are up and going as well on this Tuesday edition. Happy to have you with us. It's our episode 367. I'm trying to make sure it's not the last. But I do need to say this. And I will not say that because Bell will start screaming at me, no, because he is here to protect me from myself more than anything. But we know how that, children were drawn to that because it was naughty, right?
Yeah, of course.
Naughty. But even as a kid, when I heard it, the retort that comes second, I didn't drink that part. I even as a kid, I thought, well, that's not how any of this works.
Right.
The American says, ha, ha, ha. See, I didn't. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but when I was a kid, I was like, well, wait a minute. You can't do that.
I'm just trying to stand as far away from the suspension as possible.
You're the guys on the, you know what you are? You're the guy on the set where Jimmy the Greek was, and you're just slowly
slinking outside of the camera shot.
Out of the camera shot. It's like, look, pal, I'll be here with whatever schlub they bring in to replace you.
Bell, did Matt say? I don't know. I was in the restroom.
I was eating my sloppy Joe concoction. I know what you're saying. And no, I'm not. I can't read any of the super texts now because they're all about the nursery rhyme or whatever it was. 42 after the hour, 615-737-9986. Let's shift our attention to somebody that we all hate, Kamala Harris. I mean, even Democrats hate this woman. She is underwater by 17 points. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm very yes, ma'am. I do apologize, Madam Vice President. Sometimes when you speak, it's hard for me to see because. Okay, I stopped myself. I didn't say it. If you want to know what the end of that sentence was, that thought was, it has something to do with Willie Brown. Anyway, so. Kamala Harris is Joe Biden's insurance policy. I do not for a second believe the Democrats would be running Joe Biden had they a better vice presidential selection, because if you dump Joe, and Joe's not making the decision, stop acting like he is. If the big money boys on the liberal side of the aisle, if they dump Joe, who do you take? Well, you have to fight through Kamala to get to Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom's got a lot of problems out in California anyway. There's a lot to attack Gavin Newsom on. But he looks the part. He sounds the part. He defends when he needs to defend. He acts tough when he thinks he's supposed to act tough. He backs up and acts all sensitive when he's supposed to act sensitive. Kamala Harris is just an idiot. Joe Biden has an excuse.
I think you're being a little generous with her.
I mean, there's nothing there.
She's a horrible human being.
And she acts as Joe Biden's insurance policy, because if Gavin Newsom was his vice president, I promise you, Gavin Newsom would be the presidential candidate right now. But understand, to dump Joe is to have to contend with Kamala because she considers herself the heir apparent to the throne. So then you have a battle between Democrats, and they're roughing one another up before the general election next year.
And what does it say if you have this person that was so critical to the ticket that they made her the vice presidential candidate, and then you just blow her off? It's like, we're going to skip around her. Well, that says a lot about your decision-making, doesn't it?
Well, right. I mean, the problem with Joe's decision-making is that he announced in an effort to get primary votes. Remember, Joe was underperforming until South Carolina. And I remember this. Once again, elephantine. I remember this. He was underperforming until South Carolina, and he got James Clyburn to come on board, and that was a huge victory for him in South Carolina. And then during that process, and we believe it was James Clyburn that demanded, look, you need to announce that you're selecting an African-American female as your running mate. And Joe Biden did it because he was so desperate. And when he did it, he won South Carolina, and that eventually led him to his basement nomination. But he had to make good on it. And in doing so, he limited himself to like 3 people. Kamala Harris was one of them. Stacey Abrams, goodness me, was another one.
That would have been just as bad.
Oh, this is like the opposite of an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
I think Abrams would have been worse. Well, gosh. You think Abrams is... I don't even think... I think Stacey Abrams is better than Kamala Harris.
No, I think if you had seen her get into the position and she was under the spotlight, it would be just as bad.
Yeah, probably. So, but the problem is not that Kamala Harris is dumb. She's ignorant. And I think that's worse. You can't fix stupid. You can fix ignorant if you are not too lazy to do so. If you're not knowledgeable about certain subjects, you can make yourself knowledgeable about certain subjects. Kamala Harris refuses to. And if the media had any cojones about them, they would say so. And they know so. Former aides to Kamala Harris have said on the record that it's not that she's dumb. She just doesn't. She chooses not to do the homework and wing it. And when you choose not to do the homework and wing it, you're left with garbage like this from yesterday.
I'm here because I also understand not only what we should celebrate in terms of those fighters who fought for fundamental freedoms, but understanding that this fight is not over. When I look at the fact that in our country we're looking at somewhere around 600 bills being proposed or passed, anti-LGBTQ bills, book bans.
Okay, I don't know what that alarm is in the background. I think it's the stupid alarm going off. I don't know.
No, otherwise that would be audio would be behind every time she spoke.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm going to try to translate some of this in real time, and I'm going to ask a very serious question in the 2 o'clock. After we talk with Congressman Desjardins, I want to ask a sincere question of all of you, because this is Pride Month, and most of us have a very simple message. On this June 27th of Pride Month. And that is, I don't give one rip what you do in your bedroom. Just leave my kids out of it. Nobody cares what you're doing in your private time. Just leave my children alone. That's all. And for our trouble in Tennessee, in Florida, in state after state after state that has passed legislation that supports this basic principle. It's not hard. Nobody gives a crap about you or your life. Just leave my kids alone. Here's the reality. If you're a part of the gay community, look, I love you like I love every other fellow brother and sister on planet Earth. And I don't begrudge you living a life of your own choosing. That doesn't mean I support it or not. You get to live in a free country. I mean, God gave us free will for a reason. You get to use it. So long as you're not denying other people their right to life, liberty, or property through force or fraud. But this is a victory. What I'm about to say, I want to be really clear, and I hope that members of the gay community will listen up, and I hope they will call in and tell me if I'm wrong. This is, what I'm about to say, is a symbol of your victory. Your victory. And here it is. I don't give a crap about you. I don't care. I do not care. Nobody cares. That's a wonderful blessing for you. At some point, everybody seemed to care, and they cared in a negative way, and now nobody cares. But that's not enough. Now I don't care. Thank you, Ricky Gervais. I don't care about any of this. And that's to your credit. You won. Nobody cares. Nobody's attacking you. Kamala Harris and the rest of these politicians that are desperate for the gay community to stay on the political plantation, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to shackle you to the Democrat political plantation. If you're gay, they want to make sure that you understand you vote Democrat or you're not really one of them. I don't even know what that means. But they're trying to keep you there. And in order to do so, they have to keep reminding you and insist that you are a victim. I don't believe that you consider yourself a victim. Gay people aren't victims. I mean, and I understand historically there was homophobia. I get all of that. I get the past. I'm talking about America in 2023. Now, there are bad people in every corner of the world, and you can find examples of bad people doing bad things. Bad people doing bad things to gay people, bad people doing bad things to black people, people doing bad things to white people. So I understand that there are examples that exist, but in the larger sense, the left pretends like you're just being attacked. No, you're not. Stop allowing them to call you a victim. And the fact that I don't care about what you do is a victory for you. Just leave my kids alone. That's it. All right. I am off my high horse. Do you agree? Disagree? 615-737-9986. It's The Murphy Show. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is located in Franklin, and I care about this. I care about my back and the pain that I used to have, and now the fact of the matter is that pain is gone, and I feel so much better. I have vitality. I can do things like play golf that I could not do or had to be real careful about because of that lower back issue. Well, now I can go back from time to time and get a correction or make sure that everything is as right as it should be. And right now, for less than $50, for $49, you can get a complete examination. You get what you pay for, folks, and this is less than $50. That's a great deal where Dr. Wendy, Dr. V, or one of the team will step in. They will give you a complete examination. They will look over you. They'll talk to you about what ails you. They will give you x-rays. They'll examine those x-rays, look over them, and then they can talk to you about a long-term prescription for success, one that doesn't involve pills and doesn't involve surgery, but does involve comfort and a pain-free life. Why not give them a call? So many people have done so. Call the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. I believe that you'll be glad you did. 615-882-4838. 882-4838 for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief.
It is 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 87 degrees and another sunny day. This whole week going to be seriously hot. Right now, Middle Tennessee, a lot of Middle Tennessee in an excessive heat watch. That's going to be in effect all day today through tonight. And that just means dangerously hot conditions. The heat index values could get up to 113 here today. So make sure, grab some shade, grab some water. Full weather forecast coming up in just a couple of minutes. There was a Supreme Court decision today making clear that state legislators don't have unchecked power over federal elections. Lindsay Watts explains.
The Supreme Court has delivered a strong rejection of a fringe legal theory that's been supported by some conservatives that threaten to upend election laws nationwide and expand the power of state legislatures. It's a key decision ahead of the 2024 presidential race, where new legal challenges over state voting laws are expected. The court's decision makes clear that state courts still have a role to play in making sure elections are fair and legal, and state legislatures are not unlimited in their power.
Right now in Tennessee, a woman was flown to a hospital after her car was hit by a train this morning in Williamson County. It was a single-car train that hit her Ford Red Explorer and pushed it around 500 feet down the tracks. That woman is now in critical condition at Vanderbilt Medical Center. And hundreds of flight cancellations today by United Airlines. This is across the country, and it's being blamed on the FAA. Here's Derek Dennis.
Some 800 United flight cancellations by early morning and growing, with the airline CEO pointing the blame at the FAA, saying in a note to employees, quote, "The FAA failed us this weekend and that the weather scene around its hub at Newark International Airport in New Jersey is, quote, something the FAA has historically been able to manage without a severe impact." CEO Scott Kirby writing that is almost certainly a reflection of understaffing and lower experience at the FAA. A statement from the FAA in response says, "We will always collaborate with anyone seriously willing to join us to solve a problem."
And a Tennessee legend has died. Bobby Osborne, one part of the famous Osborne brothers who sang Rocky Top, has died today. He co-founded the bluegrass group alongside his brother Sonny. They premiered the act in Knoxville in the early 50s. The group became a member of the Grand Ole Opry in 1964, inducted into the International Bluegrass Hall of Honor in 1994. The song Rocky Top was first played by the University of Tennessee's Pride of the Southland Band in 1972 during a halftime show against Alabama. Osborne was 91. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
You know, I talk all the time about the Mill Creek View Tennessee podcast and Steve Abramowitz and the great work that I think he's doing down there in Franklin, and I encourage you to check him out. You can do so on a variety of different platforms. You can find him on Deezer, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, all your favorite podcast apps. You can find him just about anywhere that you find news and information, but it's more than just politics. Now, they're frequently the number one show in politics on Podomatic, but they do more than that. They have authors on. They talk about, pop culture, entertainment, sports, the arts. It's all at Mill Creek View Tennessee and his podcast. Plus, they have a website, mcview.us. That website available for you. Steve's just about everywhere. He's on Twitter as well. He does a great job in Central Tennessee, and I encourage you, when you're not listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN, maybe check him out. It's Steve Abramowitz and the Mill Creek View Tennessee podcast. I strongly encourage you to look it up. And, hey, I've got an episode in there. Maybe look me up. It's Mill Creek View. Here we go. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. In a moment, we'll speak with Representative Scott Desjardins regarding his tour around the agricultural areas of Middle Tennessee and what he's found out about all of that. We'll also ask him about Hunter Biden and some of the other things that are ongoing in Washington, D.C. Then we'll get back to your telephone calls at 615-737-9986. We'll continue our conversation about, for the life of me, I can't figure out what the Democrats are discussing when they stand before the American people. Jill Biden did this just the other day in Nashville at Bicentennial Park and talking about all the attacks that are going, oh, gay people are under attack. Gay people aren't under attack. They're attempting to create a victim group mentality out of you. They're playing the same cards that they have played for years, for decades, for generations with the black community, conveniently forgetting that the Democrat Party itself was a party of subjugation for years for the black community. It was Democrats in the South that steadfastly refused to allow the Civil Rights Act to become law. It was Democrats in the South that believed in segregation. It was Democrats in the South that ran roughshod over the rights of our African-American brothers and sisters. Yet now they've changed the narrative, and they suppose that they can continue to keep you on the Democrat plantation. Not so. They're trying to do the same thing. They are the party of identity group politics, as simple as I can put it, where in order to be considered a part of an identity class or a protected class, you have to be a victim. And in order for you to be a victim, there have to be oppressors. And these oppressors are these nebulous, mystery people that are in the shadow. Republicans, I guess.
Well, plus, if you have your oppressor, then they can stand up and go, we're your saviors. Just look to us and we'll fix it all.
We'll destroy the oppressor and save you again and again and again and again. Meantime, is the African-American community better off in the urban centers or better off at all?
You can argue they're worse off.
I would argue that they are. We'll put that conversation on the back burner for a moment and talk about things that we want on the front burner, like corn and peas and some of the other agricultural products that are produced right here in the great state of Tennessee with Congressman Scott Desjardins. He joins us on the Matt Murphy Hotline. Congressman, good afternoon. I hope you're well.
Good afternoon, sir. Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to us a little bit. I know that we spoke with your colleague John Rose yesterday in anticipation of a listening session held at the Wilson County Fairgrounds. How did that go, Scott?
It went good. We had a good turnout. As John probably mentioned, we're getting ready to write a farm bill, which is done just every 5 years, and not too many things in Congress are for that long a period. So it's pretty important that we get things right. So we had people from actually Kentucky, Mississippi, Alabama, all over Tennessee that came to share their views on how we should write this bill.
Well, I asked John this question, but I'll ask you separately, Scott. What are we dealing with today, and what do you feel like needs to change? If this is the sort of thing that only happens every 5 years, as you mentioned, what needs to change? What's happening right, what's going on right, and what's going on that needs to be fixed?
Well, one thing that people don't realize is the Farm Bill is about 80% SNAP. And so I think transparency in that program is crucial. There's, a lot of people that are rightly concerned about research and development. The Chinese are outpacing us in areas of food production. They're buying up land in the country in strategic locations. That's got to stop. You wouldn't think of that as Farm Bill, but rural broadband is really important in a lot of areas in Tennessee. And so there's things that we're doing right. Crop insurance is important, but when it comes to a focus of mine on the SNAP program. I don't think anyone opposes SNAP, but we want transparency. We want to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, and we want work requirements for able-bodied adults who just simply choose not to work. And that's something that we failed in 2018. We've got it through in the House, but it was taken out on the Senate side. And with the workforce shortage we have here in Tennessee, I don't know how many people this would involve, but it's estimated up to 10 million people could and should be required to work in order to receive welfare.
You know, the SNAP program, why is it, I mean, help me with the history. Maybe you don't know. This might be an odd question to ask, but how did it get incorporated with the Farm Bill? It feels like that SNAP was incorporated with the Farm Bill to make it easier to pass these entitlement programs on, because after all, we all want our farming community to be on solid footing, and if you can get SNAP entitlements mixed in there, then all the better, at least for the I mean, I'm not against a SNAP, don't get me wrong. I just think the fraud and abuse is tremendous within those programs.
Yeah, and you're right on the history. It's been merged together, and there's been movements to separate it because it seems like it'd be easier to be transparent about the program if it was separated from farm. And they're interlinked because everything people eat comes from farmers. So you can kind of see why it's a title, but the fact that it's such a big part makes it complicated. Another issue that seems very vague to me is undocumented citizens or all the people that have been crossing the southern border. There's 5+ million, a couple million gotaways. And when I make the argument that non-citizens are receiving SNAP, I'm rebuffed with arguments that it's very hard to get if you're not a citizen. But there's several provisions that allow you to receive SNAP. One big one is that if you're 18 or under, so anyone 18 or under crossing into this country illegally qualifies for SNAP benefits. The other big one is if you're seeking asylum, and if you've been following the southern border, pretty much everyone is seeking asylum because that's the easiest pathway in. So when I question Secretary Vilsack or Secretary Mayorkas, and I question them, not a big problem, it's not a real problem. I don't believe that. I want to see the proof because that really skews the 42 million Americans that are supposed to be being serviced by this program.
What is the clapback from the Democrat Party when you talk about work requirements? Explain to the audience what basic ask the Republicans are offering in terms of, I mean, it's not much. And what is the legitimate response to this, Scott? I'm confused.
I'm yet to hear it. It gets demagogue to say that we're trying to make a mother of 5 children leave her home and go out and work, or somebody that's in a wheelchair or disabled, or they're 70 years old. They're saying Republicans want to force them to work, and that's not at all what we're asking. We're saying able-bodied people between age 18 and it was 49 in the Limit, Save, and Grow Act. We bumped that to 54. Should be required to work and simply choose not to. It's an issue that kind of astounds me, frankly, because across all political spectrums, Democrat, Independent, Republican, the average is about 76% agree that able-bodied people who can work should work. And it's, I think, 71% Democrats, 86% Republicans. You can do the math, but it averages out that 3/4 of Americans agree with this, but yet somehow it doesn't make it into the bill. And I guess it just kind of shows a bigger problem in this country, whether it's a move towards socialism. You can tie in socialized medicine, but the anti-work environment is going to destroy the fabric of the country. And this is a simple ask, and we're just asking people who are able to work to do so. And it lifts them up out of poverty, gives them a sense of self-worth. And the SNAP program was never meant to be a replacement. It was just a supplement. It's called SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And I don't know why we get the blowback, but we do. And it's even the topic you started the hour with, now that it's Republicans that are racist. It's a media that's complicit, that will carry the water and be the megaphone for the Democratic Party, and that's what we seem to be up against.
Well, it's an easily demagogued issue by a party that doesn't care that we're overspending to the tune of $32 trillion in debt, right? So they know that it's an easily emotionally controlled issue, because if Scott Desjardins lays out the basic work requirements, instead of listening to what you're saying, they just, like you say, they just trot out the mother of five, and they say, Scott Desjardins wants this woman to starve, and people go, oh, no, and the media carries that nonsense, and sadly, certain people believe it. But, we'll try to continue to speak the truth on our show to make sure people are aware of it. I had someone on the super text line, Scott, ask me this. Is there currently a requirement, I don't think there is, to label the country of origin on our food? And if not, why not? And is that a consideration?
Yeah, that's been debated, I think, since I've been in Congress. And the country of origin label, there's people that speak for it and against it. I should know this, Matt. I don't know off the top of my head whether that's in place right now or not.
Well, I think that for me, in my household, I don't know how much of our food comes from foreign sources. I know we get a good bit of food from Mexico, and there's a partnership that's going on there. But, for me, I'm trying to eliminate certain countries out of my life in terms of what I buy with my dollar bills. And I think this would go a long way. I don't know but I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of that discussion, what all it would entail.
Right.
What else are the farmers telling you on? As I know you're out and about today, you're visiting specific farms today, right?
Right. We have and looked at the issues within the milk pricing and transportation and different issues that we need to address in the Farm Bill. We're actually on our way to do a Jack Daniel's tour today, and that sounds like too much fun. But they have issues with white oak for their barrels and tariffs, and we just went to Callaway Stables to show our chairman the Tennessee walking horse industry. There's been a movement across the country against the walking horse, and the chairman to see firsthand how well these animals are taken care of and how important it is to the state of Tennessee. We've been to just regular row crop farms. We had our big Ag Expo listening.
Oh, we're out in the country too. Scott, you there? I think we've lost him.
Yeah,
Scott, I think we're cracking up. You're out in the God's country, out in the middle of Tennessee. So I'll say goodbye. I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, thank you, Scott, for everything that you do for the state of Tennessee and everything that you mean to us on the program here. I was going to ask Scott if he's going out to the Jack Daniel's distillery. You must demand to see the safe that killed Jack Daniel.
The one that fell on him?
Well, it didn't fall on him. He kicked it. That was the story I was told. That he came in early one day, not really an old man, but Jack Daniel was trying to get something out of his safe. We don't know what. Apparently, once again,
I'm visualizing like tall gun safe. Is that what we're talking about?
No, we're talking about 2.5 foot like safe for your,
like you would see in westerns and
for your papers and whatnot. And they still have it. The safe is on property. And the story that I was told by the tour guide, so I have no reason to doubt it, was that Jack Daniel knew the combination to the safe. He came in early one day. He was trying to get into the safe, apparently had forgotten the combination, was having trouble with it, and it exacerbated him so much. It frustrated him so much. He was angry, and he kicked the safe very hard. And it broke his toe, and the toe got infected, and they could not control the infection, and so they had to take off the toe, and that got infected, and they could not control the infection, and they had to take off his foot, and that got infected, and they could not control the infection, and they took off his leg, and it eventually killed him. And that is the story we were told. That's what killed Jack Daniel. I was also told a story. What was his master distiller's name? Is it Motlow or Motley? somebody in the
Motley
listening
Crue?
audience will. No, it's not Motley Crue. I think it's a Lim Motlow or Motloo. Someone will know. And I'm being told the story is true. The safe story about Daniel is completely true.
See that? And what's the moral of the story? Control your temper.
Control your. Well, I need. Now, see that's a good. That's a good lesson for me today. I mean, I've gone off on
you
two.
weren't in there kicking anything. Though.
Well, I was off on 2 rants though. So that is the moral of the story. And here's my wife asked a question, and I don't know if the tour guide was being contrarian or whatever, because he never got into this. He never got into the Motlow. Thank you, Mick. He never got into the safe. And so E raises her hand and says, because they're telling the story, he kicked the safe, and then they had to take his foot, and they had to take his leg, and then it eventually got gangrene on it, and he died. And my wife, back in the back of the class, she raises her hand. We're sitting there looking at the safe, and she said, what was in the safe that he wanted so bad? And the guy didn't know.
It seems like that
would have been
a tour.
You're doing a tour. That's an important part of the story. It's like nobody's ever asked this before.
Well, actually, he just had a couple fountain pens he wanted in there, so he ended up dying over fountain pens.
Take a shot, lady, and stop asking so many questions.
That's not the point.
That's not.
Buy some booze.
That's exactly right. That was a great tour, though. We were told stories on that tour. Who knows how many were true or not? We took it about 10 years ago, where the Lim Motlow, the claim was, so he took over the distillery after Jack Daniel died, and he was his master distiller, and he built a house. At the time, and I think maybe to this moment, I don't know, but the county, Lynchburg was a dry place. You couldn't drink or sell alcohol in there, but they allowed a special dispensation for them to make it. Well, Lim Motlow's wife, as they were getting married, they were building this house, and she said she knew what he did for a living, but said, I'm not going to have alcohol in my house. I will not allow alcohol to cross the threshold of this home, is what she said to him.
Prude.
And Lim Motlow, as a result, buried whiskey lines underneath the house, and they came up through the basement. So liquor never crossed the threshold of her house.
Wise man.
It's a smart guy, right?
Well, other than marrying her, yes.
It was the original man cave. I'm going to the basement. And you come back up and you're happier.
A lot happier than you when you went down.
But the one other story that I've heard, and I know that many of you are more learned in this arena than me, and you can confirm it really quickly. Is Scott still on the line? I think we lost him.
No, he's back. He just called back in. That's what I was. That's why I was saying line 11.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying line 2. Well, then I'll tell the story real quick, and we'll go to break. And if Scott can stick around, please. I want to finish up, but if he can't, I understand. So Jack Daniel Distillery. This is during the Lim Motlow era. Jack Daniel's long gone. The federal government insisted that they have revenuers on site to monitor the amount of alcohol that you were producing and to regulate the amount of alcohol that was being sent off the assembly lines. As a result, you had to have one federal regulator per 10,000 bottles of booze. And the story that I understand was that one of the reasons that Jack Daniels became as popular as it did is because Lim Motlow said, by God, I have to have one. I'm having one. And because you had to have at least one. But he said, I'll never have more than one federal revenuer on my property. And so he limited production of Jack Daniels to whatever amount it was that required him to have the one and wouldn't go above it. And for that reason, it was scarcity that created the popularity, which is basic law of supply and demand if you're producing some good product. 2:23, we'll finish up with Scott Descharlet in just a moment. He's back with us out of the countryside right after this on Super Talk.
A Supreme Court ruling regarding election laws, an update on one of the state's most wanted fugitives. Those stories and more coming up, 2:30. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Mr. Morey. 227. Let's finish up with Congressman Scott Desjardins. Scott, I started telling stories about Jack Daniel, and I didn't realize that you had gotten back on the line, gotten into a better cell situation, so I apologize for your hold. But I'm glad that you did call back because I do think it's important that you know that you need to ask about the safe when you tour the Jack Daniels distillery.
I heard you. You're remarkable at filling time. I heard your story as I was going in and out of service, and you have that history down pretty well.
Well, I've taken the tour. I was fascinated with every aspect of the Jack Daniels tour, not just the end when they give you samples, but during the entire process. Well, good on you for getting the concerns on the ground level of some of our Tennessee farmers and some of the movers and shakers in the state of Tennessee. I think it's important. I do need to ask you one question about D.C., though. I mean, do you expect that it will remain the Hunter Biden story as it relates to the president of the United States remains the central topic? And I know one of your colleagues, Congressman Andy Ogles, my congressman, has filed articles of impeachment. Is it a little early to do that yet? Do we need the oversight committee to finish their work, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a little bit early, but a lot of people are thinking that, and there's such a long list, whether it's Secretary Mayorkas or whether now apparently Christopher Wray is in the spotlight, according to Speaker McCarthy, based on some of these new revelations that maybe he restricted Weiss from investigating Biden or tipping them off about investigating or searching the house. So I think it's going to stay on the forefront, and it's interesting. Even if it's just a crackhead son bragging about his dad sitting there, he's still trying to extort money. And as far as Biden, declining to admit that he has had any interactions, that's just not reasonable. And this motorcade here coming, believe it or not, is our chairman. They're driving around in a bus with a police escort. I personally drove by myself, but I stepped in the car.
What are you riding in, Scott? I mean, it's
I'm riding. My wife was kind enough to come along with me today, so we just drove ourselves. But a lot of hoopla out there. You think either somebody's in trouble or the revenuers are coming in to get after Jack Daniels. But no, I think that the Hunter Biden thing is going to get deeper and deeper. And, you got to remember whoever he sent that email to, there's somebody on the other end of those emails and texts that we can reach out to that were being extorted. So it'll be interesting. And I think Jim Jordan is hot on the trail, as is Mr. Comer from Kentucky. So I would expect that this is going to be at the forefront for months to come. And frankly, all I care about is that we can restore our confidence in the DOJ and the FBI. Certainly I'm sick and tired of the phrase that, we have an equal system of justice in this country and no one's above the law. Well, I don't find that to be the case in most any level of government, local, state, or federal. And so they like to say that, but they certainly don't follow through on it. But we need to have people believing in our system of justice, and right now there's just rightfully very, very little faith in it.
Keep after it, Scott. Thank you for everything that you do, and we will talk to you again next time. Come see us.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, take care. There's Scott Desjardins joining us for a few good moments and sticking around even through the bad cellular service. It's 2:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.231, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 88 degrees in Music Row. Excessive heat watch all day today for the majority of Middle Tennessee. That heat index could get up to 113 today. Got a full weather forecast in just a couple minutes. Starting in the nation's capital, the Supreme Court ruled against Republicans in North Carolina who were looking to make changes to the state's power over election laws. It was a 6-3 decision to reject the legal theory to give state legislators unchecked power over federal election rules. Terry Moran covers in these stories and tells us what was being attempted.
This was a very radical theory, the notion that unfettered power rests with the legislatures and the legislatures alone to determine the time, place, and manner of elections. No governor could veto it. No court could review it. Election officials did not have powers in that area. It was a sweeping assertion of power. And what this does is basically bring the election discussion back down to earth as we all know it.
Here in Tennessee, an inmate escapee update. Channel 4 says that one of the two inmates who escaped the Henry County Sheriff's Office has now been put back in custody. 40-year-old Joshua Harris was found near Highway 49 thanks to a tip. Police are still on the lookout for 48-year-old Ronnie Sharp. The pickup truck they were believed to have stolen was located in Kentucky. They escaped Monday morning through a skylight and they got out on the roof. An update in Russia, the exile to Belarus of Evgeny Prigozhin is not in the best interests of the Belarusian people. This message from the U.S. State Department briefing this afternoon, where spokesperson Matthew Miller had this to say.
Everywhere that Wagner goes, death and destruction follows in their wake. He has been a destabilizing agent. And so the decision by President Lukashenko to welcome Prigozhin to Belarus, I think, is another example of him choosing the interests of Vladimir Putin and choosing the interests of the Kremlin over the interests of the Belarusian people.
And the U.S. is now targeting sanctions against 4 gold companies that are helping pay for those soldiers, including companies in the Central African Republic, UAE, and Russia. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, folks, Matt Murphy, and I want to tell you about the party of the season, and the season is summertime. Summertime's here. A lot of great outdoor activities going on, but there's only one Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, and it's happening August 4th through the 6th. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Tickets on sale right now. Plus, not only 3-day tickets, but also single-day tickets are on sale. It happens in downtown Nashville. If you've not been, it's, what is this, the 3rd annual Big Machine Music City Grand Prix? Let me tell you something. This is a fabulous race through the streets of downtown. It's designed to challenge the drivers and excite the fans, and it does both in wild abundance. New for 2023, Saturday night racing, a family fun zone, and an early Sunday 11:30 start. Fan favorite returns with the high-flying stadium super trucks, tons and tons of racing, all capped off with the Sunday NTT IndyCar Series racing through the streets of Nashville. You've never experienced anything like this, folks. The party of the summer. Grab your tickets before they are gone. MusicCityGP.com. MusicCityGP.com. Get amped with the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Is
It's
this
okay.
the one?
Yeah,
Is
go
this
ahead.
the one? Okay.
You're good.
All right, all good. I hope the viewers of Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, were getting. I don't know if they saw any of that. I hope they got a kick
I
out
didn't.
of that.
I still had it on the Be Right Back.
It was
so funny.
Mac Morey got a kick out of it. He was watching.
I thought it was great.
So that commercial that just one before the last one that aired, it started and there was a little beat that started, and I was like, oh, it's bumper time. And I started to talk, and I was like, it's time to go.
Oil Fire Whiskey.
Wind me up and let me go. I'm glad all of you are here. I gathered you together to ask you a simple question. That would be Belle Kay, Mac Morey, and all of you. So I'm going to say a few words, and I want you to tell me
1800.
Excited or not. No, it's not. This is not Friday Mac Attack. That comes on Friday. And in the evening time hours. So Mac, be prepared for that.
Yes.
That you
yes. Just realized what that means. Lovely.
Well, you work a long, hard day.
It means you have to stay all the way to the very end.
Yeah,
You work
that's
a long,
what it
hard
means.
day. So
That's what it means.
Normally, just to peel back the curtain, on the drive at about 6:35, once that final newscast is complete, Mac Morey is out ski.
Yeah,
and
6:33. Yeah.
If I sub in for Brian and I beg of him to stick around for a Friday Mac Attack, that's normally at that time. So that is an extra 20 minutes of his time. He does it for you, not for me, not for Belle,
true.
for you.
Well, and let's be honest, he gets
you
here at
guys.
9 a.m. I mean, he takes a break in the middle of the day, but it is not a very long one. He's here a long time.
Long day. Longest day of the team.
Do it for you, Matt.
You and maybe Ken Weaver. Longest
that's
days
true.
of the
Yeah.
team. So the question is simple. And the answer is excited or meh. So excited. Okay, I'll give you a third response. Excited, fine, yeah, whatever, or meh. The replacement for Pat Sajak, the longtime host of Wheel of Fortune, has been named.
Enough. I stop. You don't have to do everything.
Why do I hate him so much?
Because he wants to do everything.
Why do I hate him so much? From wheeling the carcass of Dick Clark out toward the latter years of the man's life every New Year's Eve, to attempting to be skinnier than Kelly Ripa on a daily basis, which is an impossible task because that woman is as big as my thumb.
Hold on. He's replaced Dick Clark. He's replaced Regis Philbin. He's replaced God knows how many morning music radio hosts. He replaced himself on American Idol, didn't he? And now he's replacing Pat Sajak. Stop. Just go home. Nobody cares.
Ryan Seacrest has been named as the replacement to longtime host Pat Sajak. So instead of asking the question I was going to originally ask, I'm going to do it this way. How long does Wheel of Fortune last with Ryan Seacrest? Not the show in its... I think it might last through Ryan Seacrest. With Ryan Seacrest, how long does this last? 2 years?
Yeah, I think that's the long shot.
I think that might be being a little generous because his demographic, the Ryan Seacrest demographic, does not watch that show. And they're trying to pull a younger audience, but I don't think a younger audience gives a rat's ass about sitting down in front of the TV and watching a game show.
I know at least my generation, we made a bit of fun when Pat Sajak tried to do a talk show. Remember that talk show?
Yeah,
it was awful.
Dan Miller from here, he was his co-host.
Oh, was he?
Dan Miller was one of the anchors on Channel 4.
And Pat Sajak was a weather guy here for a minute, right?
Memphis.
Well, he came from that, and Merv Griffin recognized his abilities and selected him to do Wheel of Fortune. I want to say that Chuck Woolery did Wheel of Fortune for a brief period of
That's
time.
correct.
And then Pat Sajak took it over, and obviously Pat Sajak has the ability to be personable without getting in the way.
Yes.
And that is a special talent. You show your personality, you're funny, you're pithy, but you don't get in the way of what's going on, and he has the ability to do that. So he's stepping down as the host of Wheel of Fortune. You know how much he was making? Have you heard?
What, $6 million a year?
What do you want to guess? We went. You gonna guess 1,800?
No, I was gonna go like 10 mil.
15 million.
Ooh, wow.
15 $15 million.
And Vanna hadn't had a raise in 20 years.
And Vanna was making Vanna's making like $3
million.
I think I heard this correctly yesterday. That Vanna White is making like $3 million. Pat's making 15.
Wow.
But I mean, she doesn't have to turn the letters. I mean,
now it's just push the.
She just touches it. She doesn't really need to be there.
No,
let's be honest.
Yes, she does.
Man, oh man! I've told you this story.
Even at her age,
the first
looks good.
The first Playboy magazine I ever laid eyes on, Vanna White issue.
Was she naked?
A big deal in the Murphy household. Big deal. Big. Huge.
Especially when your grandmother found you with it.
I told you this story. So, Steve Cheeley and I managed to get ourselves a copy of the Vanna White issue. And as I recall, she wasn't really. She did one of those things where she showed everything but,
As I recall.
As it's burned into my memory.
I got home and I think I paid for it and Steve was able to get it or something. But anyway, I get home a couple of weeks later and my mom was a weird one. She had brain surgery and so she had a warped sense of humor, although I'm told that she always had that sense of humor. And I come home one day and I think I'm 15 years old. And she's sitting in the living room thumbing through my Playboy magazine. And I think, well, I'm going to get destroyed now. I'm simultaneously scared and embarrassed and all of these things. And you know what she said to me? She said, I really like these articles. You should get a subscription to this. I swear to you. And so I did.
Wait a minute. How long did you stand there in utter shock before it sunk in that you weren't in trouble?
She told me, she said, I'd like reading these articles. And so, but it scarred me.
Did you tell her that's my line?
Well, the problem was, now your mama knows you've got those, and so she gets her grubby little hands on them first and thumbs through all the articles, and so as a 15-year-old, that's exactly right, Matt.
So it's ruined.
You're ruining it.
Yeah,
I know that you've handled this. You've ruined the whole thing.
This was my moment.
This was my thing, my secret thing, and you've ruined it.
The forbidden fruit never tastes as sweet when you're allowed to have it.
Or when you know your mom has read the interview with, Richard Pryor or whatever it is. And your mom has learned what the likes and dislikes of Miss December are before you know. Ruined it. Anyway, so that's that story. And hopefully Ryan Seacrest flames out in disgrace.
And actually, Pat was here in town. It was Wink Martindale that was in Memphis.
Oh, so he was in Nashville.
Yeah.
I interviewed Wink Martindale once. Nice enough guy. Troy Aikman seems like a nice enough guy. He's got a message for all of you folks out there wanting a beer, a cold brew on the 4th of July.
This weekend, we celebrate the birth of our great nation. I am so proud to be an American and look forward to celebrating with good food, great friends, and, of course, ice-cold beer. At 8, we believe in truth and authenticity. Our company is proudly based right here in Texas, and all of our beer is brewed right here in the good old USA. So, I've got to call it like it is. There are a lot of beer brands out there that are trying to cash in on this holiday by slapping an American flag on their package, regardless of whether or not they are truly American. So this July 4th, drink American, whether it's 8 beer or any other American-owned beer brand. And on behalf of all of us out here, we appreciate your support. Cheers.
How about that Troy Aikman calling out these beer brands that aren't from around here?
Well, in fairness, if you watch the video, he was wearing a dress when he did it.
That's not true. I'm watching.
Oh, it's not.
Video.
Oh,
no.
I'm sorry. Okay, my bad.
He's
my
wearing
bad.
wearing a nice enough shirt, and he's pulling on an 8 beer. And I don't know anything about his beer brand. I don't know. I can't vouch for the taste of the beer, but it is a beer brand that he had been creating when the Bud Light controversy happened. And he's taking a smack at Anheuser-Busch. He's taking a smack at Mick Ultra. He's taking a smack at Bud Light and all these other, because that's not owned by America. I mean, so he's directly taken up just to Budweiser and Bud Light and all these other brands. I guess, is Miller still here? Is Miller owned by?
I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
Is Coors? Coors is still in Colorado?
I mean, they're originally from Colorado, but who knows who's bought? I mean, I'm going to guess that Coors is American. But, there's a difference between staying out of all of these controversies and being an American brand of beer. Let me get to a couple of calls before we have to say goodbye. Joe is in Pulaski. Hey, Joe, what do you know?
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I got a comment, if I can do it, on the tape that Donald Trump did. Everybody's saying that, he's got this classified stuff. And a lot of people say that they can't believe Donald. What makes you think whatever he said was true, because he's a little bit braggadocious, and nobody actually seen the paperwork? He said this and this and this about this classified. But what is it? It could be a cartoon for all you know.
No, he said in the audio, which he's not said was fake. I mean, I'm not going to be put in a position to attack Donald Trump, but I mean, are you suggesting that he made it up?
No, I'm not suggesting he made it up, but he may have said something to the effect that this is a classified whatever piece of high confidential stuff, but we didn't see it. All we did was hear it, and it could be like I said, it could be a drawing, it could be a kid's rendering, it could be a stick figure.
Well, I mean,
we don't know. We heard something. We didn't see what the classified stuff is. So how could we be sure?
Okay.
How could anybody be sure to prosecute him?
Joe, fine.
Yeah.
It was fake.
Well, I don't know. But we can't prove one way or the other.
If that is the refuge that we're finding in all of this, okay. Or it could have been Donald Trump saying, hey, Mark Milley is lying about me when he says that I wanted to go into Iran. Actually, he wanted to go into Iran. And as a matter of fact, here, hand me this, my assistant. And the assistant hands him the paperwork, and you can hear the paperwork. And you can see right here, look, it says this is from Mark Milley, where he said he wanted to attack Iran, and I told him no.
Well, that's very possible what he said, but we don't see what it is. It could be, like I say, it could be a couple of guys with a bow and arrow, for all you know.
Okay. All right.
If you want to prosecute the man and put him in prison.
I'm not. I'm for Donald Trump, Joe. I'm just saying that your hypothesis is dumb.
Oh,
that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Is that it is absurd to suggest that the four people in the room were sitting there while they were being recorded, looking at a drawing of a bow and arrow, and they didn't say anything.
Well, we don't know what it was, do we?
Joe, it's silly. I mean, I'm not trying to be. I'm a Trump guy, but
me too.
But what you're saying is kind of silly.
The proof has got to be there for him to have been accused or prosecuted for.
No, I don't want him to be prosecuted for any of this. I think all of this should be thrown out because of prosecutorial malfeasance. I think all of it should be thrown out of court. But, Joe, thank you for the call. I appreciate the concept, but I think in reality, let's deal in reality. In reality, do you think Donald Trump was sitting there in Westminster, in New Jersey, talking to these reporters, and he was showing these reporters just drawings that he did in the bathroom, and they were going, oh, yeah, that's good.
You totally missed the opportunity.
Joe,
you're a funny guy. You're funny. You're funny.
Joe, you're funny. The way you talk, the way you tell the story. No, I'm just saying. I'm
say
funny.
The two youths.
No, I'm funny. I'm like I amuse you.
I'm a clown.
No, like I'm a clown now. Is that what you're saying to me? Is that what you're saying to me? Give me a pencil. I'll stab you on the neck. 51 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Efficient heating and cooling. Man, oh man, have you seen what the temperatures are getting up to over the next couple of days? I mean, 99 degrees. I feel like we've been spoiled in June in as much as it's not been as hot as it could be this time of year. Well, now Mother Nature's coming back with a vengeance. And if your AC is not running properly, it will be slaving to keep up with these hot conditions. And it can be hard to find someone that can get to your place jiffy quick, get a certified technician out, and repair what ails your AC unit. But you have that in Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Jeff has the crews. Jeff has the knowledge and the teams, and he's imparted this knowledge to every single one of his service techs. And so they're going to try to fix the problems that exist with your AC first and foremost. They do not automatically go to replace. Some do. They don't. At Efficient Heating and Cooling, you'll know when Jeff or one of the technicians tell you that it's time. You know that it's time. It'll always come, but you don't want it come years too soon when you can save a lot of money as a consequence. Jeff Eddy keeps that overhead low by never charging you overtime either. And that's a nice thing to know. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, if the AC goes out and you still need to pump that cool air, Jeff and his team will get with you from Efficient Heating and Cooling and get you up and running. They are a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric, an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. EfficientHVAC.net, EfficientHVAC.net, or 615-784-4424. Again, 784-4424 for Efficient.